Whilst we're waiting for her to join, I can give you an introduction. Manuela has been an English teacher for over 10 years. She holds a bachelor's in international business and a teaching degree in the languages Portuguese and English. Manuela, welcome. You might want to help me with some of these next pronunciations. She is also a psychopedagogue from UNITER and a specialist in inclusive education from Unicesuma. Did I say that correctly?
Yeah. Yes, it was good enough.
As a teacher, she's in love with continuing professional development because that's the best way to be a better teacher, to support different kinds of intelligences in the classroom, and to take actions for change. So welcome. We're really happy to have you here today.
Thank you so much, guys. It's so nice to be in such a plural environment. I'm so excited about sharing my experiences and my knowledge with teachers around the world. This is how we take action for change.
Well, the floor is yours.
Thank you, guys. So first of all, I would like to tell people, in case you have questions, I'll be taking a look at the questions. So anytime I come across, I'll be answering your questions. And at the end, I'll be giving you my contact so we can keep in touch. So in case you have a very specific situation going on in your classroom, please do not feel afraid to share with me. Write me and we'll be discussing about it. So guys, first of all, we have to think about the students we have in the classroom. At the times we have 10 students, at the times we have 20. Depends on, there are some kinds of environments that we have even 60 students in the same classroom. Yes, of course. So I'm sorry, I am reading while I'm speaking the comments. So we cannot imagine that every single student learn in the same way that we do, or maybe the way his colleague or her colleague is doing this, is walking his path. So here we have some kinds of intelligence that we must take in consideration while planning our lessons. So first of all, we have interpersonal, logical, mathematical, linguistic, musical, spatial, kinesthetic, and we have extra two that in terms of scientific researcher, there is not much about it because it's natural intelligence and spiritual intelligence. And I will let you know why in the next slide. So interpersonal intelligence is when I am able to understand myself and control myself. When I know that I am in the kind of environment that I am not feeling good and I have to step back, this is a kind of intelligence. So at the times you will see that there are students that they will be free and comfortable to tell you, teacher, I cannot understand. I'm not getting it. So this is a kind of self-regulation that they have, and we should be supporting them. So every time they are telling you that they are not able to understand something, please go there, talk to them, and try to figure out which would be the best way to make him or her comfortable enough to keep learning. Interpersonal, it's when a student is able to listen to the other student. They have this ability about building rapport. At the times, activities that involve a discussion in the classroom, even when they have to support a different point of view, it's the best way to do that. You will be encouraged then to, okay, I am good at understanding someone else. So right now I have all the information I need to come up with a solution. So that would be a great kind of activity. So according to what Jennifer has said before, you could come up with everyday topics and okay, guys, so we have this point of view and this point of view. How can we find a better solution for it? Yes, it's multiple intelligence, exactly. I am answering the questions. Logical, mathematical is the kind of intelligence that unfortunately most educational systems use in order to evaluate the students, which I think that's Super incorrect, because we cannot think that everyone is able to calculate. By the way, there is a extra detail about me that I haven't shared yet. I have dyscalculia, which is a learning disability. So when I'm speaking about multiple intelligences and inclusive education, I'm talking about something that I have been there for myself. So I know how much is difficult when you are not able to learn as the others. So that's why I started this battle for inclusive education. Linguistic, I believe that most of us here today, we have this ability, because when a student has this linguistic ability, this student is able to write, speak, and organize their ideas into words. So mainly writing activities. I have some students, for example, that they find it difficult when they have to speak. When you ask like a simple question, for example, what do you do in your free time? They find it difficult to just speak. So normally they write it down, they organize their thoughts, and then they come up with the answer. We should not be concerned about following the book or at times the rules of the institution. We should be aware that we are dealing with lives. So it means that we have to adapt the things and be open about doing something different and thinking out of the box. Musical, they benefits from beat, rhythm, and tone. I'll give you an example. I have one student that he has ADHD, and he has this kind of intelligence. So he is 8, if not mistaken. And recently he was learning about routines. So make your bed, take shower, and so on. But he was struggling while he was trying to memorize his routine. So teacher Manu has decided to come up with, what if we could sing it? So yes, I am just reading what Eden. I'm sorry if I am mistaken about the pronunciation, but yes, you should. We are going to be talking about it. We should help students to find out which intelligence they have. This is one thing that I apply in my classes. So when a student comes to me, like in the very first session or the very first class, I always ask them, could you tell me, in your opinion, how do you learn? And they get very surprised by it. Yes, Valeria, they say that it's not scientific approved, or they do not have a basis on scientific studies because there is no empirical research. But in terms of applying it, and as I work as psychopedagogue, I have students that they really struggle and they really have learning disabilities. You see that the logical behind it, despite of the lack of research in terms of empirical research, makes the difference. I can say it because this is what I live. This is how I base my learning and my teaching processes. I will be reading more questions and be answering. Let me just finish this slide. So as I was telling you, I have this student that he struggles while he's trying to memorize because he has ADHD. So what I have done, we have created a song, and of course we have introduced some movements. So for example, he knows that wakes up is this while we are singing and moving. So when he does not remember, I always do the movement, and I have created like a beat. So, oh, it's a wake up, teacher. Yes, it is. So you are not just based your lessons on materials. You are based your lessons on your students' intelligence. That's super cool. Spatial. So in case you know some engineer or bricklayer, yeah, they have this kind of intelligence. So these people, they benefit from Google not recently, but I know that Google has a platform that it's like guides, like, so you can use like virtual reality in order to have your students to go to museums across the world and visit different cities. So this is something that I use with the students, that they have this kind of intelligence. So they have the ability to understand the environment. So they will recognize walls, um, uh, probably this experience will give them some kind of feeling. So the learning thing will be having this connection. So which is super cool. So kinesthetic, we are talking about someone that he thinks that he or she is part of it, like an actor. An actor will not be able, okay, I am Manuela, but right now I am taking the role of Mary. No, they cannot separate. At the times, there are some actors that they have to go under therapy when they finish a role in a movie. This happened in Black Panther with some of the actors. He needed to go through therapy because he couldn't disassociate his person from the character. So when we use this kind of things, they shouldn't he's really thinking that, okay, I'm part of it, I can do that. And the other two that were recently added, it's natural and spiritual. So natural intelligence comes to accepting the world, the environment, the animals, and living harmony with it. This is a kind of intelligence. This is what most biologists have. And the spiritual is someone who has understanding about what is beyond, higher, and greater. Of course, it doesn't matter which religion you believe in or you follow, but everybody can have this. I will give example as my brother. My brother, he is an Adventist, and he has lots of this kind of knowledge. So at the times when he needs to study history, he connects the history that he has learned through Bible with the history from humanity. So this is a way that he has to connect knowledges and really have a meaningful learning. Yes. So I am just reading the question of Mashruka. If I'm sorry about my pronunciation, if this is incorrect, I always tell teachers, do not focus like Jesus Christ. I have 20 students in my classroom. So what am I going to do? Do I have to focus on interpersonal? Do I have to logical on math? What do I have to focus on? Do not carry this worry, please. What I want you to learn from this presentation today, I want you guys to be able to remember this while preparing. We will not be always able to, okay, today I will attend all my students just with this lesson plan. No, it's impossible. Even though I consider us heroes, we cannot, it's impossible. So try to vary your classes. So if you have like 10 students, try to analyze like, he is learning better this way. She's learning better this way. So you're going to see that even though you are not going to do this every day in your lessons or in your class, you're going to be seeing that these students at some point, they will be benefiting from your practices. And this is something that doesn't matter what kind of intelligence your student has. What is important is to teach them metacognitive words. What is this? And this is something that I apply in my classes. And if I had any of my students here with me, they would totally agree with me. Because normally when I have to correct an exercise, I always tell them, I am your tutor. Even though I'm a teacher, I do not have the ownership of the word knowledge. So you are able to teach me something as well. So normally when they have to write down answers or they have to make a presentation for their colleagues, I always ask them at the end when they finished everything, I am like, okay, so let's correct it together. So they have to be aware about the mistakes and the right things they are doing. This is what is metacognitive, is the ability of thinking about your own thinking. And we should develop this on students. This way, they do not rely on us. It's nice because we are teachers, but they are able to have the self-confidence. They have to build it. And of course, it has some connection with active methodologies. So your student is feeling motivated and not just waiting for the teacher. He is on movement. He is able to do that by himself, correct his mistakes and, oh, it's not have, it's there is or there are. Oh, it's plural. So they will be able to do that. Exactly, Zara. It means that we have the player facilitator. We do not have to go there and like today I am a lecturer. So you are mostly watching me and of course writing some comments. But the classes should not be this way. The student needs to speak. The student needs to interact. And that's why I use this kind of exercises in my classes, mainly when it comes to corrections. So I always tell my students, I'm so sorry, I'm not going to give you the answer. We are going to find out it together. Yes, exactly. It's always nice when you tell you always have something to teach me. I work with students that they have different backgrounds. I have students that they are elementary school. I have students that they are engineers. I have students that they are administrators, psychologists. So they always have something to share with you. So you have the English at times, you have the ability of speaking, but they always have something to teach you. And this is how we can change teaching. We are not lecturers, we are facilitators. Right now, about inclusive education. First of all, normally when we listen to this, we normally think about people with some kind of motor limitation or physical limitation. But it's not this way that we should think about it. We have to remember that inclusive education, it's every time that we receive a very specific explanation. For example, remember when you were at school, when you were a younger teenager or a kid, and you were struggling at something, and your teacher came to your desk and said something different from what he or she has already explained from the whole classroom. So if your teacher came to your desk and talked to you in a different way or has given you a different kind of explanation, surprise, you were in the inclusive education. Inclusive education is every time someone is struggling and, okay, I'll help you doing something different for your learning. Another thing that I want to talk about inclusive education, remember guys, you are a teacher, so you cannot stop learning. I think that being a teacher is very challenging because of it. We have to remember that we will always be a learner. So take your professional development seriously. So every time you see something free, webinars, British Council as well offers many kind of professional developments, be in it. This is the best way because we always become better professionals when we have opportunities like this one that the English classroom is offering us, to be together and discussing things that we struggle in our daily routine. And now we have to talk about some learning disabilities that they affect the classroom environment. Some of the most common disabilities, it's ADHD, dyslexia, dysorthography, and dyscalculia. Unfortunately, most curriculums, thank you guys for your participation. I'm reading all the comments and I'm super excited about what I am reading so far. So talking about these learning disabilities, I don't know about your countries, but unfortunately here in Brazil, when you decide to get a teaching degree, we do not have any specific subject about the learning disabilities. And we should, because by the time you step in a classroom, you are surrounded by different people with different backgrounds, and as we said before, different learning intelligences, different kinds of intelligences. So how can we understand it a little bit? As teachers, we cannot treat it or give a diagnosis, but we can let our coordinators or the school and parents learn or know about this, and of course give the correct treatment for this student in particular. So ADHD, normally people put it a little bit general, like a little bit too much general. But ADHD is divided into two. We have inattentive ADHD. It's when the person just like, whoo, you are explaining something and it looks like that your student is somewhere else but not in your classroom. And it's not because at the times we were talking about being engaged during the classes, but it's not on purpose. He is this way. I am married to someone who has ADHD, and at the times I'm talking to him and he's just somewhere else, and it's not on purpose. Don't start a fight because of this. Try to understand what's going on. And combined ADHD has to do with hyperactivity. So normally students or the student cannot stay long times, mainly right now because of pandemic, staying so many hours in front of the computer in order to learn. Probably this student, he would be a little bit more practical. This student would like to do something that he needs to move. As I gave you the example previously about my student who has ADHD, at the times, these days we were learning there to be, so there is and there are. So after I explained to him the grammar, we went to take a tour around the neighborhood, and we were labeling things. Okay, you are seeing trees. So trees, it's the words, the vocabulary that we were studying, but there is or there are. So we were using tags and labeling everything. So for him, it was nice because he was moving. ADHD stands for attention deficit and high activity disorder. How to deal with students suffering from dyslexia. So this is our next topic. Dyslexia has divides into two as well. We have a phonological and surface. What's the difference? Phonological is when the student is able to see the letters, okay, that's not a difficult thing, but it's very difficult for them to understand the sounds. So if you tell them, for example, I will tell you something and you have to write down, probably they will find it difficult, like dictations. They will struggle a lot. I have one student that he has this kind of dyslexia, and we are working with him step by step, and we are working with phoneme. So, it's like so TH sound. So this is what we are doing now. So this is the best way. And we have the surface dyslexia, which means that they shouldn't, it looks like that the letters are jumping and dancing in front of him. I know that's very difficult for us who do not suffer from it, understanding, but it literally looks like that the letters are dancing in front of them. So it's very difficult to show, okay, this is a word, here I have a syllable, and so on. So it's very difficult. And normally, how do we deal with this kind of information? We need to use technology. So most students who suffer from dyslexia, they do not write like regular people having notebooks, pens, and pencils. We normally offer them tablets, smartphones, or even computers. So instead of writing, they can use their voice to type. This is the best way that we have to deal with it, because if the person does not have this intelligence, we cannot force them to fit a society role. Oh, you are obligated. No, we are not obligated. We are obligated somehow to learn. So we have to take part in it. But we cannot obligate someone who can't calculate to calculate. We cannot obligate someone who cannot write to write. You know, so this way it's not inclusive education. Inclusive education is when you let the person be the way they are. Dysorthography comes about writing. So normally it's combined with dyslexia, and normally the person cannot write very well. The person does not have the ability to recognize the letters and draw them very well. So as they cannot recognize the sound, how will I write something correctly? You know, and dyscalculia is the one that I have, and people who suffer from dyscalculia, we are not able to calculate or reasoning, work with percentages or anything that is connected with logical, mathematical thinking. In my case, I used lots of my linguistic ability in order to deal with it, in order to go through university and school. So instead of calculating, my teachers asked me to figure out the theory. So instead of having calculations, I had texts on my notebooks. These are